Monty Python and the Holy Grail has to be, without a doubt, my favourite comedy of all time. It is also highly regarded as one of the best comedy films ever made. The Monty Python team are of course legends of the genre and are responsible for creating some of the most funniest sketches ever put to screen. But today, the Holy Grail is my quest. I'm Kendall Richardson and these are my top 10 favourite moments from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Number 10. Make sure he doesn't leave. This funny scene calls to mind the iconic Who's on First, as two dim-witted guards are charged with one simple task: make sure he doesn't leave. He, of course, being the Prince of Swamp Castle, who does not wish to marry a woman he doesn't love and has to get away from his wretched father, the king. The king issues his order to the guards, one who does all the talking and one who just has a terrible case of the hiccups. And yet somehow the talking guard seems to find many different ways to interpret that one short and simple sentence. It just gets funnier and funnier as it goes along, with Eric Idle and Michael Palin fully selling their parts to the viewers. And then the reveal at the end where the talking guard realizes that the king was actually talking about the prince the entire time and not his fellow hiccuping guard. Hysterical. Number 9. The Bridge of Death. This scene has to be one of the most quoted parts of the entire film. Coming right before the climax of the Holy Grail, the Knights of the Round Table come upon the Bridge of Death, which is manned by the creepy as hell old man from scene 24. They must cross it in order to continue their quest for the Holy Grail by answering truthfully 3 questions. If they lie or do not know, they are cast down into the pit of eternal torment. This scene is so cleverly written and always makes me laugh. From Lancelot's success convincing the cowardly Robin to approach, only for him to be launched into the pit, to King Arthur himself using his vast knowledge of swallows against the bridgekeeper, casting him downward to death. I love that the bridgekeeper seems to be making up those questions on the spot, relishing his role in condemning people to die, so naturally it is quite rewarding to see him beaten at his own game. Number 8. Bloody Peasant. In one of the earliest sketches in the film, we see King Arthur and his faithful servant Patsy come upon some lowly peasants in a field. Right from the get-go, he completely underestimates them, not realizing what engaging with them would lead to. The king is roaming the land searching for knights to join him in his court at Camelot, so he asks the peasants where their knight or lord might be. What follows is a hilarious exchange that definitely would not have taken place in actual 932 AD about the politics of their anarcho-syndicalist commune and how some farcical aquatic ceremony certainly does not qualify one to be king. I absolutely love how Graham Chapman as Arthur almost breaks character by yelling out "bloody peasant" in response to the peasant exclaiming that he's being repressed. The whole scene feels a little underrated, but it always, without fail, leaves me in stitches. Number 7. Tim the Enchanter. Probably my favourite role that John Cleese has ever portrayed. The Enchanter, who some call Tim, is a wild and unpredictable man of magic who assists the king and his knights in their quest to seek the Grail. He arrives in a spectacular and impressive, given the film's small budget, display of fiery explosions, and then proceeds to exposit about carvings on a wall of a cave that reveal the last known location of the Grail. And that the cave is guarded by one of the most fearsome creatures known to mankind, a white bunny rabbit. Cleese's performance is so eccentric that when he tries to warn them of what the rabbit is capable of, you really think he is just being overdramatic. But when the first night falls, Tim's reaction is priceless, giving an emphatic "told you so" speech that King Arthur wants to hear none of. Number 6. Bring out your dead. In a hysterical random skit near the beginning of the film, we see Eric Idle as a man collecting the dead bodies of the poor souls who have died in this small village. The monotonous drawl of "bring out your dead" followed by the dull gong reminds me of anyone who's ever worked in customer service who is so done with repeating the same script over and over and over again. But the best part of the skit comes when a villager played by John Cleese brings out a dead man over his shoulder, who, as it turns out, isn't quite dead. The man's frail voice protests to going on the cart, states he feels fine and happy, but Cleese's villager has had enough of him. So, as a favour, the dead collector bangs him on the head, and Cleese flops him gratefully onto the cart. The haggling he does to make that happen is hilarious and relatable for anyone who's ever tried to return a faulty product. It is simply outstanding. Number 5, The Black Knight. I think it's fair to say that when you think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you immediately think of the Black Knight. Another one of John Cleese's iconic characters, King Arthur and Patsy encounter him as they try to cross a small bridge. This was the You Shall Not Pass moment almost 30 years before the Lord of the Rings film trilogy. Arthur reluctantly faces off in a heated duel against the Black Knight, which quickly sees him victorious after slicing off one of the knight's limbs. But, oh no, 'tis but a scratch, and the two of them continue their sword fight until all that remains of the Black Knight is his torso and head. The best thing about this fight was the total unexpected nature of it all. The Black Knight gives off a first impression of a man you really don't want to go up against, so to see him go down in such a silly and stubborn manner is just pure joy to watch. Number 4, the French Tonta. So this guy has to be the rudest and cruelest man in all of cinema. And the fact that we get to see him not once but twice is just a real treat. He and his fellow guards' hatred for the English types is so outrageous and unwarranted, but it makes for some of the best dialogue in the film. Not even willing to give the king and his men a chance to come inside their castle, he just sits atop the wall and yells down some of the most ridiculous taunts anyone has ever made up. And then as another form of attack, the French seem to excel in hurling down live animals and vegetables at our heroes, crushing one of the knight servants with a cow in the process. So Bedivere then comes up with a great plan to send in a Trojan horse. But he just seemed to forget the most vital part of that plan, and that was sending in Galahad, Lancelot, and himself inside the horse. Deservedly for his failings, the French just launched their own construct back at them, cueing further laughs from the audience, making this one hysterical and classic Monty Python bit. Number 3, the Holy Hand Grenade. One of my favourite things about this movie is the many voices Michael Palin has to do, and this one is certainly my favourite. After the initial battle against the evil and malicious White Rabbit, King Arthur and his knights decide to use the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch to properly kill it. Being one of the sacred relics that Brother Maynard carries with him, there is a whole lot of divine pomp and circumstance that must accompany its usage. My favourite part, of course, being when Michael Palin's cleric has to read out a verse from the Book of Armaments. It's a wonderful speech that contains a lot of thys and thous that quickly descends into hilarity when the simple instructions are read out in a not-so-simple way. And then it concludes with probably the best line in the entire film. Who, being naughty in my sight, shall snuff it? Number 2, the opening credits. Credits are something that appear in every film, a list of all the incredible people who help to bring what you're about to watch or what you've just finished watching to life. So what better way to make yours stand out than by turning them into an absolute laugh riot? The first part of the credits are actually the opening credits for a movie called Dentist on the Job, before someone in the background realizes they've put in the wrong movie and then suddenly the Holy Grail begins to play. What follows are the most low-budget but most memorable opening credits ever. With only a black screen and white writing, and then hilarious Swedish subtitles underneath each credit card talking about the lovely lakes and the wonderful telephone system of the country. But the icing on the cake, of course, is all of the moose references. For almost no other reason than to be hysterical, moose are featured in the subtitles and then in the credits themselves, leading to the credit makers being sacked and sacked again until all we are left with are almost seizure-inducing flashcards on the screen. It cracks me up every single time. Honourable mentions. God has charged me with the most holy quest to tell you of these three honourable mentions. Sir Robin's Minstrels. Arguably the best part about brave Sir Robin is his minstrels, a group of folk musicians that follow him around on his quest to seek the Holy Grail on King Arthur's behalf. The music that they play is fairly harmless and quite upbeat, but it's obviously the lyrics that the singer chooses to sing that make them a worthy and funny addition to Sir Robin's scenes. The singer has no qualms whatsoever about describing in great detail all of the ways that Sir Robin is totally not afraid to die in, and all in time to the music. And then after the silly encounter with the three-headed knight, the minstrel's leader sings about how Sir Robin bravely ran away. But of course, the most memorable part has to come when the Knights of the Round Table are travelling through the frozen land of Nador and are forced to eat Sir Robin's minstrels. And there was much rejoicing. Sir Lancelot storms the swamp castle. Some might say Sir Lancelot was the first ever wedding crasher. In outrageous and unreasonable fashion, Lancelot storms the swamp castle and proceeds to slay almost half the population. He does this, of course, upon receiving a letter sent straight into Concord's chest about someone needing saving from their rotten father. Thinking it to be some beautiful damsel in distress, he heads there without hesitation. Hilariously and crazily, as soon as he reaches the sender of the letter and realizes he's a prince, Lancelot apologizes immediately for his actions, and because of who he is and his standing, is forgiven by the king, who then demands that his subjects do the same. We also get the return of the "he's not quite dead" bit from earlier in the film, and then the prince finally gets to sing a song, except he actually doesn't, and all we are left with is the king's subjects singing about how he's going to sing. Sir Bedivere's introduction. Sir Bedivere is the only knight of King Arthur's that receives this kind of introduction, setting him up in a weird way as kind of the intelligent one of the group. Some dim-witted and outraged townspeople claim they have captured a witch, or more accurately, a woman that they have dressed up as one. It is always funny to watch the nonsensical motivations behind this angry mob and their complete stupidity in their reply to Sir Bedivere's questions. And then, of course, the fact that one of them claimed to have been turned into a newt, but soon after got better. And then, just because they can, when they actually go to test if she is a witch or not, turns out she must be because she weighs the same as a dove. Go figure. And my number one favourite moment from the Holy Grail has to be one particularly smashing scene with some lovely acting that could really only be on the top of this list. What a glorious, grand and hilarious...
Get on with it!
Alright. Oh, I am enjoying this scene. The knights who say, "Me." I have specific memories of watching this movie when I was a kid, of rewinding the Knights Who Say Nee scenes because they were so hilarious I had to watch them over and over. The Knights Who Say Nee have to be among some of the most absurd and hysterical characters ever created. To the audience they are silly, but to anyone who encounters them, they are utterly terrifying. Even King Arthur, who throughout the film has stood up to every oppressor he's encountered along his quest for the Holy Grail, was scared into submission by these ridiculously tall beings. Michael Palin again steals this scene as the Knight's leader with another one of his funny voices, demanding the king bring them a shrubbery. Upon their return with said shrubbery, the leader of the Knights announces to them that they are no longer the Knights Who Say Nee. And in probably the funniest 10 seconds ever captured on camera, he utters the almost indistinguishable and zany new word that they are now knights of. I was in tears the first time I saw this, absolute tears, which is exactly why, without a doubt, the Knights Who Until Recently Said Nee are my favourite moment from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There you go, those are my top 10 favourite moments from the Holy Grail. What did you think? Leave a comment, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe to Fred the Alien here on YouTube. You can also find me on SoundCloud and iTunes as one of the hosts of The Monthly at Winifred's and a podcast called Fred. I've been Kendall Richardson and you've just experienced Collectible Chaos.